No force has to be brought into play. Just the honesty that comes, or the honesty that is present when you're not engaged in the artificiality of roles. And so life becomes simpler, and the tension of contests doesn't come into play anymore. The simplicity of things means that you don't take the bait when it's offered for a tug of war. And so life becomes simpler and happier, and your experience of who you are becomes unchallengeable, and therefore not in need of defense, not in need of maintaining. So, the key is to pay attention to yourself. Pay attention to your needs. Take care of your needs, whether you ought to have them or not in everyone else's eyes. Your needs are pretty simple. It's the roles that are complicated and take a lot of effort. Pay attention to your needs and address them. Address them in the way that is comfortable for you, that does not bring stress into play. And realize that you're not called upon to do more than that, even though others may imply that you should be doing more than that. Your worth is already right there in you. And when you're no longer caught up in fulfilling roles, you will find that worth just sitting there. And because it will be what finds expression, it will bless everyone else. And those who are not too happy about it because you've withdrawn from the game of artificiality, their distress will not bother you because it will be apparent to you that that was all part of the game, that you literally don't have to respond to. You see, your need, one of your needs is not to have to respond to nonsense. And that's what roles are. Oh, well, if I don't fulfill my role, I won't be being responsible. If I don't fulfill my role well, others will not see me as respectable. Well, that's false. Because when you're not caught up with this false obligation and the associated anger that is always present under the surface because you're not being yourself, in the absence of those, you know what? The love that you are will find expression, and what needs to be done will be done. Not because you were supposed to do it, but because you're in touch with your needs and you attend to them. And because you're in touch with your needs, you'll also be able to be in touch with the needs of your brothers and sisters. And you can attend to them when it's appropriate. Not because you should, but because the need is obvious and you have the love to respond to it. Abide with that. Let it sink in. And let it elaborate itself to you. Okay.
The next question is from DMTV. How does one learn to live with one's own mortality?
That is an oxymoron, isn't it? How do you live with your death? How do opposites combine? Well, you could ask, how do you die with your mortality? Well, the answer is you don't. Life is eternal. There is no mortality. And whether you seem to have an experience of death or not, you don't stop existing. So you can't die with your mortality, and you can't live with your mortality. It's time to shift gears. It literally is time to shift gears. The actuality of death was demonstrated to be false by the resurrection. And it was demonstrated to be false for everyone. The question of living with your mortality was settled once and for all then. But all of you are behaving as though the resurrection never happened. It's time to come out of the old dark ages. It's time to come out from BC. It's time to live in AR, after resurrection, and start claiming what has been demonstrated to already be true of you, that life is deathless, so that you will get on with the living of life and recognize the subtle and not so subtle suggestions that present themselves to you, as we've talked earlier, such as, well, the body is matter and it must go through material processes. You must become alert to those false, dark age ignorances. It's not necessary to live under their rule. And the way you stop living under their rule is to stop employing them as the basis for your conclusions. You can't come to terms with your mortality. You can't find a way to live with your mortality. There ain't no such thing. There never was, but until the resurrection, there had not been a demonstration of it in the world, so to speak, in human experience, to cause that belief to be nullified in everyone's mind, to be invalidated, to be shown for what it is. Just a fantastic, imaginative misunderstanding. So I'm glad you asked the question. You can't live with your mortality. Stop trying. Start living with your eternality. Come to terms with that. Because there's a singularity. There's a consistency. And it's in absolute harmony with the truth. Eternal truth. Which is therefore the present truth. No matter where you think you are in your path of spiritual development, you're not on a path of spiritual development that will get you to eternality and deathless life. You are in the middle of deathless life, acting as though you're on a path, a development that will get you to a point where you can demonstrate eternal life. Stop wasting your time with this concept of development and start paying attention to where you are and find God in it. and embrace everything about where you are from that standpoint, so you can start being naturally curious to see evidence of it. As long as you're convinced that you're mortal and that there's matter, you will be convinced that there's nothing out of the ordinary to be experienced. Certainly nothing of the sort I've been talking about. And your absolute conviction in that, well, there you go. Your decision governs your experience. And that will be your experience until you say, there must be another way to look at this, and become curious to find out what it is. Hey, it's time to be curious to find out what it is. Because mortality went out the window 2,005 years ago. And it's time for everyone to catch up. Okay. Thank you.
The next question is from Jenny. What are the body issues I have been having? What are the feelings of others I've been experiencing?
Well, the body issues you've been experiencing are nothing more than hand-me-downs. They are traditions that have been handed down to you. And you think that because you're a woman, you're supposed to have this, that, or the other kind of experience. Now, I understand that you were really not expecting this because you're on your spiritual path. And you thought you had an understanding that would mean you wouldn't have to have this experience. But nevertheless, you are. Does this prove that everything you believed wasn't true, and the tradition that was handed down to you is not just a false idea impressed into the minds of every woman, every girl as she grew up? And they are in fact true, and you are a body, and your body is physical, and your body is matter? Is that what you do in the face of these experiences? No. No. You just see that the tradition that was handed down is more firmly embedded in you than you thought. And you proceed with joy and expectation to see the undoing of that tradition, that mindset, and thereby the physical evidence of it. You expect to see transformation. You expect to see and experience balance, harmony. What is it that could age? It's not anything that would be eternal. It would have to be matter, wouldn't it? You see, it's all bound up in the whole mindset of matter, which then means matter versus spirit. Conflict again, polarization. Before the year 2000, there was a lot of expectancy, a lot of openness to radically new things. Post-2000, what's happened? People have abandoned their expectation, even though it was valid. What happened when you reached a certain age and these symptoms appeared? You were tempted to abandon your faith, your trust, your hope your curiosity. Like, what's the use? It happened to my mother, it happened to my grandmother, it happened to my great-grandmother. Yes, tradition, you see. Keep your curiosity alive. Be willing to assume the obvious, that God is all, that God is all-inclusive, that there is nothing going on anywhere that is not God, and that if there seems to be something going on that isn't God moving, it's because you or someone else or everyone else has preferred their imagination, their best imagination, what they consider to be their best imagination of what everything is. And it's that element added to the allness of God that is creating the distortion and the distress. And what's called for is to find a way to abandon the habit of adding a little bit extra to what God is being, and to look for God and ask to be shown by God, God in everything. Start a new tradition. Okay.
The next question is from Andriana. Dear Raj, I feel like I am in a standstill. I am unable to move in any direction. I am wondering whether the message is to be right where I am, even though I feel a little apprehensive and wondering what could be coming next, or even if there is a next. That's it.
Everything is exactly as it should be, and everything is in balance. What you're confronted with is an antsy impatience, a feeling that you must assert some authority and make something happen. Don't take the bait. Let yourself be where you are. Bring your full attention to where you are and look at it from the place of excellence in you. In other words, ask. Go within and ask, Father, Holy Spirit, show me the beauty, show me the harmony, show me the fullness of the presence of God that I'm right in the middle of, right where I am, because I wish to acknowledge it. I wish to declare it. I wish to not participate in making suggestions that anything else but God is going on here. Help me see the truth so clearly that I stand in awe of where I am, and would therefore have no desire to be anywhere else or make anything else happen. The ego is simply baiting you to assert a little authority. Don't take the bait. Okay.
The next question is from Pogo. What is the Earth experiment that is due for completion on or about 2012?
There's no Earth experiment. If there's been an experiment, it's been one engaged in by the sons and daughters of God who said, let's experiment with having ideas of our own. Let's experiment with making up new definitions for everything. Let's join in mutual agreement as to what reality is. And let us behave on that basis. And let's do it for as long as we can possibly do it. If there's been any experiment, that has been the experiment. The Earth experiment. Well, if you're going to talk about the Earth experiment in that way, you're going to be talking about a physical body in the middle of a physical universe. There ain't no such thing. There's mind infinitely experiencing its infiniteness. And the objects of mind are ideas. And these ideas have substance because of their source. And the substance of that source is patterned through the patterning of energy, which is spirit. So that it is experienceable by mind, which is what constitutes being conscious. Because to be conscious of nothing is not consciousness. That is the only thing that's going on. Now, as we've said, there are some really imaginative, different ideas, not really ideas, but imaginations that have been brought into play, and many different explanations, many different religions, many different religious approaches, many different metaphysical approaches, and on and on and on, that have been overlaid upon this fundamental, simple movement of creation in which there is no matter and no time. Stop being duped by these invitations to see everything differently from what it is. There's no Earth experiment that will be over. What is likely to be over in 2011 is the experiment that Christs have engaged in to imagine different meanings for creation and join together in mutual agreement and conviction about those definitions and the attempt to live on the basis of those definitions to the exclusion of what everything really is. The enthusiasm for such an adventure will be dying out and is already in process of waning, even though you can't see it yet. You see a lot of distress. It's really the more conscious awareness that the grand experiment at being independent authorizers is no longer providing satisfaction or enjoyment or positive thrill. And that's what I mean when I said that the inclination to participate in the experiment is waning. Okay. I really want everyone to be willing to more consistently challenge their inclination to just continue traditions. Traditions of mortality, traditions of autonomous independence, traditions of interpreting everything. Please, stop interpreting everything. Abandon the interpretations and let yourself be present with everything. Innocently. With curiosity to know what a thing is, totally aside from any interpretations you've made up or any interpretations that have been handed down to you. The only way a shift of awareness is going to occur is when you invite it and when you refrain from reinforcing old perceptions. Now you can talk and talk and talk and reason and argue and try to come to a definitive understanding of A Course in Miracles or Christian Science or Catholicism or metaphysics. But nothing's going to happen until you yourself actually take the time to let go of your best concepts and to set aside all that you've been taught so that you might give your attention to a thing, an object, a neighbor, whatever, innocently, really, and have some moments of intimacy, asking, please, let me see what this really is. Let me see what God is being here. Until you engage in this, quote, inner work, unquote, nothing's going to benefit you. No matter how much discussion or argument about the meaning of this or that or the other thing takes place. Shut up the arguments and the intellectualizations. Become still and become intimate with your world. And understand that if your purpose for this moment of intimacy is to confirm what you believe, your moment of intimacy will not be innocent. And the fullness of what a thing really is will elude you because you're wanting to confirm yourself instead of letting reality confirm itself to you because you're willing to see it without introducing the something extra to the allness of God. I have enjoyed being with you in this time today, and I look forward to being with you again like this. Thank you.